All right. Hello, everyone. Mark here. Thanks for joining me for another Greenbridge Investing market analysis stream. So this is a live stream, and if you're new to it, the way it works is you can put your symbol in the chat now before I begin my analysis. And once I complete my portion, I can go through the chat and I can go over the charts or the markets that you would like to see analyzed. Okay, so let's get this thing started. This is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. Now, today we're going to begin obviously with Bitcoin, but before we do that, we have to talk about the news, right? So let's do that real quick. Let's talk about the economic calendar. It's very important that you at least check this out once a week, especially if you trade things other than Bitcoin, like Forex or stocks, things like that, right? So these are the main events for this week. Now, keep in mind, hey, Ricky, hey, Steven, thanks for joining. Keep in mind, as I put in the chat room just before, this is a holiday week. Also, next week is a holiday week. Why that is important is because volume will shrink as the week goes on. Thursday is Christmas or Christmas Eve or whatever in this country. And then next week, obviously, we have New Year's Eve and New Year's Day and all that stuff. So as volume shrinks and gets smaller and smaller, there is likely to be less movement. Now, there are always exceptions to this. If there's a particular piece of dramatic news, especially since we have an unstable political situation going on right now in this country, the market can have a dramatic move. Okay, even on low volume, it's possible. So thing is, you cannot have, the main point to take away is you cannot have opinions. You must go into it with open mind and expect anything, okay? And then adjust as new information makes itself available. Now, let's talk about this economic calendar real quick. There's not much going on, as we can see. So for you guys in Australia, right, we have, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time retail sales. You guys probably don't care. I don't either. Great Britain, tomorrow, we have gross GDP. Again, that's might affect the pound. As you can see, the pound and the euro got a little dramatic earlier today, but that was all dollar-based stuff, right? And we're going to take a quick look at gold and the euro today because it's important, even if you don't trade those markets, it's important to understand the intermarket relationship with the US dollar because the stock market is affected the same way. Okay, again on the 22nd, which is tomorrow, we have GDP in the US. Okay, these are usually not major market movers, all right? And even major market movers like NFP or FOMC meetings have not had very dramatic effects in recent times. Okay, I can tell you back in the day, there'd be an NFP report and the euro would move 200 pips in 5 minutes. Okay, we don't see that type of movement anymore. On the 22nd, we have the Bank of Japan, their monetary policy meeting minutes. Again, not a big deal. Australia trade balance, not a big deal. On the 23rd, that's Wednesday, for the U.S. durable goods orders. Again, these are not market movers. And then we have capital goods orders. Okay, whatever. None of these are important numbers. So again, it's a light week in terms of news, and that makes sense because it's a holiday week. All right. Now, before I get into the next thing here, I just want to mention real quick before I get into the analysis, if you're new to Greenbridge Investing, please make sure to like the video if you like what I'm doing here. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Every time we do one of these, you get an email notification from YouTube. Also, the Talking Markets show, you'll get an email notification for that as well, which we do on Tuesdays. Another thing I want to point out real quick, if you go to our website, okay, I want to point out the pricing page here. Obviously, we have a swing trade signal service by text, by email, portfolio management ideas by email, and a chat room where we're updating trade ideas and offering market insight each day across the different markets. Now, we have a 7-day free trial, okay? If you start that out and you like one of these packages, we have a 6-month package for $299, and then we have a yearly package for $399. All right, so on a monthly basis, you save a lot of money, right? On the 6-month basically comes to about $50 a month. Yearly comes to about 33 and a quarter per month. We used to have a monthly plan, but the thing is, in order to really benefit from our strategies, you need to be in this longer than a month. Okay, most of our members that have done very well have been with us for 2 years. They stuck it out. They believed in us. So we make the commitment every day, and we would expect you to do the same if you want to show a decent result, over time. Now we also have a free plan which allows you to get the trade of the week email. Okay, I send those out after the Talking Market show. Usually I send them out by Wednesday. So you can get the trade of the week, and you can paper trade our ideas, a swing trade idea. You get all the orders, right? The buy stop, the stop loss, and the targets, and you can see how those work out, or you can take them. I mean, we've had some good runs on those. All right, so with that being said, enough promotion. Let's get into this. So Bitcoin, right? Now, the thing is, what I want to talk about today with this, what is price action saying right now? Because it's a little confusing, right? And also, I want to talk about Tesla and the S&P 500, because today Tesla was made part of the S&P 500, what that means going forward. Now, if you notice on my Bitcoin chart, and I put this out on TradingView yesterday, the 24K area, there's a line up there. You see it, right? I'm going to draw a little box there so you can really see the line. And this line up here is a major resistance area. It was a projection point that I had on my chart a few weeks previous. And I was looking for some sort of reversal price action up there. I wrote about that the week before. I wrote about it yesterday. Now, Andrew sent out a swing trade idea at that area, and perhaps he saw something that I didn't see. That's why I figured, all right, maybe he sees something on an 8-hour chart or something. But this is not a level where I personally would take or call a swing trade. Okay, at the time it looked like this. Okay, for those of you that were watching, it was basically trying to push that 24K, and that's a high going into resistance. Okay, so that's for me, that's a very low probability area and not a place to be taking new longs. So could it have gone higher? Yeah, it could have if the momentum continued, but I never trust moves into a major resistance like that, especially a resistance that had shown some type of action. There were price reactions here. You see this long tail on this candle a few days ago, or whatever, like a week ago. That's price action. People sold something there for whatever reason. Okay, and you had these little tails developing in the area. So it was very suspect. Now, there was no sell signal, right? When it looks like this, there is no sell signal there. This inside bar, you can say, okay, that could be the beginning of a sell signal if the low is taken out. And then the low is taken out, okay? And that's today. So this is a sell signal that is in play. Obviously, this was a catalyst. This was a result of the stimulus package stuff that's going on. I would imagine, because again, I don't follow news, but there was some drama with the stimulus package and this and that, and all the markets reacted, right? The S&P started out very negative earlier today, very bearish. The entire stock market was looking ugly. Even gold had a little effect there, and same with the euro, because it was the dollar, right? The dollar was bouncing higher. So Bitcoin clearly was affected. Now, since then, you see a long tail going the other way. This is the confusion that I want to clear up. Okay, you see that? And you can argue and say, well, isn't Bitcoin a long now? Well, no, it's not a long. And at least from my strategy, the way I see things, no. That could be a higher low. It's possible. But there's a sell signal in effect off of a resistance area. Now, what I would anticipate from here is bearish momentum, because in order for me to take a swing trade, in order for me to see, the opportunity, I need a support level. And right now, the nearest support level is this area here, 21,150, that area. Now, we may not get there. Maybe today's low is as low as we're going to go, all right, 21,864, which isn't too far away from it. But look where the close is, right, 22,9. That's way too far away from the support level. So I wouldn't do anything with this. I don't know if you guys, if people took that swing trade and got stopped out, if you're stopped out, like that's the risk you take at those levels. If you had not taken the trade, hey, you know what? No problem, because we still have this 21,150 area that I'm looking for. Now, this area, I drew a box there, and I drew a line going to that box. We'll see if momentum follows through as the week unfolds. With a pin bar like this, it's hard to say. This is not an official pin bar, by the way, because a pin bar doesn't have a long tail on the top, and the open to the close is much smaller, much more narrow. It looks more like a hammer, right? Like these little candles over here. Those are pin bars. So this is you could say it's a candle with a long tail, or almost like a doji, because it's got a tail on the top too. But that's not a pin bar. So I would like to see a pin bar in this support area if it could go there. Now keep in mind, this is a minor support. It's not a major support. Minor means the chances of it getting cleared are pretty good, okay? So if it gets cleared, then I'm looking for that 19.5 area. That's a much more significant support. Why? There are a lot of shorts there, most likely, that would be very happy to get out for break even. You all know the situation. Most of us have been in this situation where you take a position, you hold it too far against you, you have a chance to break even, and what are you happy to do? Get out and break even, right? I mean, I see people talk about this all the time. I've done it, right? That's just, it's human nature. You're like, oh, I can get out, and I don't have to take this loss that I took all this pain, blah, blah, blah. So you better believe that there are shorts that are going to be stuck in this area that will be happy to get out, which means they become buyers. Okay, so I have a lot more confidence at that support level, and I would love to see a reversal, a price action reversal in such an area. That is where I would be very happy to call a swing trade if we can get it. Now again, Bitcoin may not deliver that. So if I have to adjust to a higher support, if Bitcoin can deliver it, then cool, that's what we'll do. But Bitcoin has to make the move, and it has to go to a level that I have predetermined. I don't buy highs. Okay, so, again, if Bitcoin runs to 30K from here and doesn't give me a level, well, what am I going to do? Occasionally, I'll call a breakout, but those breakouts are usually not off of major highs. They're usually a breakout off of some sort of low, like it came off of a low and gave us a higher low. Those are breakouts that I'm more interested in because they have more room to run. They have more potential. I mean, is Bitcoin in a bearish mode now? Can we call it bearish? Absolutely not. There's nothing bearish about Bitcoin. This is just some corrective type price action. Bitcoin has a long way to go before we can call this thing bearish. It's got to pull back a long way before we can even think about that. So if anything, this could be the beginning of a wave 4 consolidation, which, keep in mind, a wave 4 usually looks something like this, okay, like this back here, which happens to be a smaller magnitude, wave 4. And if it's a wave 4, a larger magnitude one, the low of that wave 4, which I had pointed out, could be around 18.5. And the other thing you have to keep in mind is if we get a larger magnitude wave 4 consolidation, it can linger for a month or something like that. It can be around for a while. So there's no need to rush into buy signals. A lot of times it's good to wait for those lows if it can get there. Okay, so just some things to keep in mind on Bitcoin. Now, at the same time, all the altcoins, I'll only point these out because, again, we get a lot of questions about these altcoins. Look at Litecoin. So Litecoin was, hey, Litecoin's going to 300, everyone, blah, blah, blah. Bitcoin pulls back, Litecoin gets hammered too. Litecoin's minus $10 today, right? This thing was as high as what, almost 120? And now it's back to almost 100. See what I mean? These things do not trade on their own. So that's a very important lesson. Let's take a look at some other ones here. Another one, XRP. Right? I get a lot of questions about XRP. Garbage, complete garbage. Now, what have we been saying about this? If Bitcoin pulls back, what are these things going to do? Now, XRP tried. This was a nice move. It tried. It went to 65 cents or whatever. It tried. But once Bitcoin sold off a bit, this thing sold off. So that's what we talk about, relative strength and relative weakness. If your altcoin is struggling to make a high, like XRP should have been up here when Bitcoin was pushing 24K, but XRP is not even close. That's relative weakness. So if Bitcoin pulls back, where's this thing going to go? It's probably going to break its support, right? That is what it's likely to do. So that's the mindset you have to have. Okay, so another one I want to mention real quick is, what's another one on the radar that I keep getting questions about is Link, USDT. Okay, again, Chainlink, right? Look at this, garbage, garbage, garbage. That's why I don't like these. That's why I don't call these, because they're basically just a smaller version of Bitcoin. It's like a Bitcoin trade, and Bitcoin is the leader. Just like if I'm interested in a market stock, the S&P has to give me my cue. If I don't like the S&P, then I'm really not too interested in that market stock, because the S&P, any movement that goes the wrong way on the S&P is likely to affect my stock. If it's a stock that is not highly correlated to the S&P, like, a pharma stock or perhaps a cannabis stock or something like that, then I'm more interested, okay? Because stocks have the ability to do their own thing, where these coins do not, okay? I mean, I guess technically they do, but they're not demonstrating that. Okay, so those are the coins. That's Bitcoin. Let me know if you have any questions. Again, everyone, if you have any symbols you'd like to see, please share them in the chat now. Now, the next thing I want to do, I want to talk about Tesla, and I want to talk about the S&P. So let's take a look at Tesla first, all right? We always get a lot of questions about Tesla, obviously very popular, a lot of stuff going on with this thing. Today, it was made part of the S&P. Interesting. So let's look at these candles, okay? Let's look at today's candles, yesterday and on Friday and today. So Friday, we had that long tail doji situation, okay? It's a very indecisive type of candle. That's also a failed high area, okay? Very, very vulnerable area to be buying. People who buy these breakouts often get caught. I don't like buying these type of breakouts, because when you get caught in this, it's not fun. Now, if you're nimble and you recognize this right away and you can get out for a small loss, then okay, fine, because there will be times when it breaks out and keeps going. We've seen plenty of instances of that over the previous couple of months. But when it fails, you need to be quick, right? If you sit there and hope, like, oh, it's probably just a fake out, it'll come back my way, you can get caught in a nasty pullback. Now, today, right, Tesla is minus $4, almost $5 or whatever. That's nothing. That's nothing for Tesla. But now it's part of the S&P. So the S&P is obviously weak today, and Tesla's feeling a little pain, where usually Tesla was notorious for doing its own thing. So let's take a look at the S&P real quick and look at the comparison. Now, the S&P had a dramatic move earlier, thanks to that news or whatever got it going much earlier before the market opened. Now look at that nasty pin bar. That's more like a pin bar, except the open to close would need to be more narrow, because the upper tail is pretty small. It doesn't have to be non-existent as long as it's relatively small, like very small, relative to the larger tail. Okay, there's no exactness in this game. Now, we can look at this and say, well, that's a bullish pin bar, right? I mean, yeah, you could say that, but the location is still very unfavorable. So when it comes to Tesla, now, Tesla was showing a little red there. The S&P is minus 30 points today. That's a decent amount for the S&P, 30 points. But at one point, it was much lower. I mean, 36.05 was the low, and right now it's at 36.90. So, I mean, it was 85 points lower. 100 points for the S&P is a lot, okay? So just something to keep in mind. And Tesla didn't get affected that much. So that's interesting. All we can do with that is make the observation that Tesla is acting relatively strong. Because I would think, as a market stock, with the S&P pulling back, 100 points practically, Tesla would have seen a more dramatic pullback. Okay, and that's nothing. This is not $4, from the high to the low, 668, 651 was the low. I mean, that's what, 20 points, something like that, right? Not even. That's nothing for this stock. So it is acting relatively strong. What does that mean for taking trades? Well, I still don't like the location, but if it wants to continue higher, that could be good for the other stocks, the other electric vehicle stocks. I mean, look, Nikola got beat up recently. It's still holding this support around $16. Okay, so maybe that thing will start to perk up again. Definitely a good one to keep on the radar. I mean, the game isn't over for this thing, after their bad news with GM or whatever. What about other ones, like Workhorse? It's always worthwhile to keep an eye on these things. Look at Workhorse. Interesting. High or low situation. We have a nice little pin bar developing off of a support. Not bad. Not bad. So if Tesla is strong and it starts to break higher for whatever reason, these things may have a reason to go. And these are in good locations. Okay, this is a good location for Workhorse. It's not bad. You could measure your risk clearly here. It's not the bottom, but it could be a high or low. I mean, this thing's obviously more of in a range right now, but I do like that there's clear support here. Okay, and it's in a consolidation. At least it has some factors going for it. What are some of the other ones that are less popular? like FUV. Look at this one. This is interesting. Things up 53 cents today. Okay, it's doing better than some of the other ones. It's in a consolidation still. You know, is this the type of consolidation breakout that you buy? I hesitate with these. I'd rather buy nearer the low. But you know, it's still a good formation. If you were to buy a breakout on something like this, you have to look at that high, 1464. So you figure 1470, 75, something like that. What is your risk? Well, your stop is going to have to go below this low right here, which is basically $12. So you're looking about $4 or $5 worth of risk in hopes of making, you know, $4 or $5 on that first leg higher if it can test that high. Okay, so which requires a lot of effort out of this thing. I prefer things that have more of a chance to reach the midpoint of their range, and if the reward is not worth the risk at that point, it's like, you know, there are better formations, there are better setups out there. Why you know, do you have to struggle to make a dollar or two and risk $4? It's just not worth it. Okay, so that's another one. Some other ones, WWR is another electric vehicle stock. They're part of the sector there. I mean, it's holding up well. Just keep in mind, like I've showed the chart on this one. This thing used to be like at $100, like a couple of years ago or whatever, a year ago. So it's got beaten up significantly. But I do like the current formation, and obviously it has some potential to, you know, at least go to $10 to $12. It's not bad from here, right? So these are just a few that I'd keep on the radar. Like I put in the chat room earlier, this time of year, because, you know, volume is going to get lighter and lighter, it's a good time to be updating your watch lists, updating chart levels where you're looking for opportunities, and managing positions. Like Jay mentioned, he was adjusting stops and things like that. I mean, that's what you do with these slow periods. You don't have to force trades. You don't have to trade every day. I mean, can you find a swing trade every day? Well, if you look through 8,000 stocks, yes, I'm sure you can find one or two. But, you know, is it really, you don't have to beat yourself up that much. You know, the opportunities will come, and there will be times when opportunities are more plentiful than others. Okay? But the thing is, you don't want to pressure yourself. There's no need to rush, because all you do is get yourself into trouble. All right. So let's talk about, so that's Tesla, the Tesla relationship with the S&P, and electric vehicle stocks to keep in mind. If Tesla stays relatively strong and that S&P recovers, because again, you know, the S&P, let's go back to that real quick. The S&P looks ugly today, all right? But this pin bar, if we close like this, that's not exactly a bullish pin bar because of the location. But if it breaks the high of the pin bar and pushes further, you may get some momentum that can take this thing higher. Now, a good thing to compare that to is the NASDAQ. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ real quick, all right, before we get to your stuff. NASDAQ has the same situation going on. Now, one point that I want to make is earlier today at the open, these things looked horrible, right? They just looked horrible. And I said in the chat room, let's see how they close, because you can't make judgments early in the day like that until you see how the day plays out. They've been buying this thing all day, right? I mean, it's minus 66 points right now, but that's nothing for the NASDAQ. And it's still inside this reversal zone, but they got the long tail, buying it all day. If you go into this with a bias, right, intraday, and you're like, oh yeah, you know, I'm going to short this thing because it's weak, right? Take a look at like a 30-minute chart, right, on the NASDAQ, and these are 30-minute candles, right? So this is the open, right here. This is the open, and this is the rest of the day. It's green, green, and green. So if you were shorting this thinking, oh yeah, it's bearish, it's not bearish. That's not bearish. All right, now it's pulling back a bit, but this is ridiculous. So this is where opinions can get you into trouble, even if they're very short-term opinions. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that. Now, let's go back to, hold on a second. All right, so that's the NASDAQ. Here, let's go back to our longer time frame there. And one more thing I want to point out about this is that blue box that you see it in, That's the reversal zone, and it's trying to reverse. Now, today was very reluctant. This is not exactly a reversal. Yes, it's a sell signal, but if I got short, I would not want to see this tail at all. I'd want to see follow through. This thing should be closing on its lows, and we have 30 minutes before it closes. Nowhere near its low. All right, so definitely not a good sign if you're short. This thing can run to 13,000 and still be inside that reversal zone, which is very possible in an environment where volume is shrinking and shrinking, and we're in the Santa rally, as Andrew pointed out, like in the email that he wrote yesterday, whatever, for everyone. So we can't lose sight of those factors as well, okay? You have to always look at a variety of factors. Don't get stuck don't get cornered by just one, like, oh, it's bearish today and it's bearish and I'm shorting everything. You can't do that. All right, so I just wanted to mention those things. Now, before I move on to your to the stocks and stuff in your channel here, let me see how I'm doing. Yeah, half hour. I talk too much, people. All right, let's go to, I just want to point out gold and the euro, because those are very important. They serve as an important gauge when you're dealing with the dollar. So look at gold. So gold has been doing well recently, and then we get this candle right here. So is that a bad candle for gold? Not really. It's just an indecision candle, right? Is gold in an area of a resistance? Yes, I pointed that out, and I said, you know, if people were interested in buying gold, this is not the best area to be buying. Okay, that 1900 area, up into that 1900, not the best area. Better area would be 1840 if it wants to give a signal. Gold has been very tough with the signals, and when I had an opportunity to call a signal, I called the euro instead because it's more accessible to people. I mean, not many people trade the gold CFD. So one way to participate with gold is, and again, the gold stocks, which have been doing well in this. My point is, gold is not weak, okay? As long as it maintains the higher low above that 1850 area, I expect a higher high in gold, right? Which means that may imply further strength for Bitcoin, but we have to see. Now, euro. Look at the euro. Same situation. I mean, everything looks the same here, okay? Euro started out pretty bad, and now it's giving us that bullish pin bar. Is the euro weak? No, the euro's not weak. Is this a location where a pin bar could be considered bullish? No, it is a resistance area, right? But the structure, if you look back, clearly the euro is not weak. It's been making higher highs and higher highs. So with this kind of push, I would expect that higher high, especially if the dollar stays weak. All right, so this is all really a reflection of the dollar. And the stock market is going to be affected by that because why? If the dollar is getting weaker, that means there's inflation, right? So if you put your dollars into anti-inflationary assets like stocks or, you know, things like gold or whatever, Bitcoin, that's your hedge against inflation. If the dollar strengthens, then money comes out of these things, okay? Fundamentally, there's no reason for the dollar to strengthen right now. The FOMC, the Federal Reserve is not raising interest rates, right? They keep talking stimulus. They're going to send everyone a check for $600 again or whatever. So they're just printing money like crazy. So as long as they keep doing stuff like that, that's dollar weakness, okay? Even if there's temporary dollar strength on some nonsense news, just keep that in mind. All right, so let's get into your questions now. I think I've covered all the markets I wanted to cover to provide some overall perspective. You know, again, if you're new to Greenbridge Investing, please make sure to check out our swing trade signal service by text, by email, our portfolio management ideas, and our chat room. We have a 7-day free trial. Just go to greenbridgeinvesting.com. You can find the links to all that stuff in the comments section on the bottom of this YouTube channel thing, right? There's a show more. Click on show more. You'll see all the links I put there. All right. So let's say hi to everyone in the chat. Ricky, again, good to see you. Steve, thanks for joining. Hey, Michelle, how's it going? Haven't seen you in a while. Hope Bitcoin's treating you well. Sean, nice to see you. Jay, okay. Hey, Mario. All right, cool. We'll take a look. All right, so we'll take a look. Cool. Sure, Michelle, no problem. Let's take a look. Oh, yeah, and by the way, Kev in the chat room mentioned Sunrun. I want to take a look at that real quick, just real quick, before I get into the stocks. Sunrun was a trade of the week. So for those of you that are new and you're a free member, maybe you weren't a member at that time. This was like maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago I sent this one out. But Sunrun, it was sent out at 59.50 was the buy stop, and that was back here. That was way back here somewhere, 59.50. So we're talking like in the beginning of November, or maybe the second week of November. And it had a nice run, and then it turned, right? And it pulled back, and some people got out of it and whatever. I told people I'm staying in it because, I'm just going to stick with it until it goes to the stop. Never went to the stop, right? The low here is 56.5. The low over here, basically 56.5, and the stop is at 51.50. I stayed in it. Here we are now. Our close today is 65.43 right at this point. So this thing's back on its way. Haven't gotten to target one yet at 69.50, but nice higher low, okay? And Kev mentioned that. Is this a higher low? Yes, that is a higher low. I would expect a higher high. So I would expect this thing to break out. If you're not in it, should you get into this now? No, because now it's very risky. What if it pulls one of these moves again? You're going to get caught in that, right? So it's all about reward risk. We're in from 59.50. There was another opportunity to get in there. In fact, when it tested that area, someone had asked me, is Sunrun still a valid play? I said, yeah, in this area, sure. It's, use the same orders. It's still good. And here we are. So just wanted to point that out. You just have to let the market work, okay? You can't judge it on every movement. That's why we use a stop. The stop, basically, the idea of using these predetermined orders, like the buy stop, the stop loss, and targets, is to remove ourselves from the equation. Because it's very easy to second guess. It's very easy to get caught in, especially if there's negative news coming out and, you get emotional. I mean, that's just human nature. It's very hard to avoid, okay? Especially if you don't have a lot of experience. So if you just let the orders do all the work, that's really the best, it's usually the best thing to do. Now, will it lead to getting stopped out sometimes? Absolutely. But at least you knew your risk going in advance. And if you had won on that trade, the reward would have been greater than the risk. That's how you put together a positive return over time. All of our risk rewards are over 1-to-1, right? So that's why our track record is very solid and consistent, because we don't take risks that don't make sense. Like you're going to risk $10 to try to make $5. That's not going to work. All right, so wanted to mention that. Okay, and thanks, Kev, for mentioning that, Kev, in the chat room. Now let's get into what people want to see here. Mario, so ADA. All right, so I'm going to guess that's ADA against USD. ADA USD, maybe USDT. Let me see, ADA USD. Is that a better chart? Yeah, that's a slightly better chart on Bitfinex. Okay, fine. So Cardano. All right, so these coins, now this one is a more popular one. It's been popular for a while. I don't need to see, I know there's more history on this thing. I know there is. Let me go to, let me find something here with more history. Actually, there's a reason why I want to point the more history out here for a minute. Hold on. ADA, let's see, we have against the dollar on Bitfinex. How about, man, there's not a lot of ADAs here. Hold on here. I thought they would have more. Bitfinex, do they have, no. All right, never mind. I'll just use this one. All right, so here's the thing. Oh, all right. Now, you know what? I want to go back to the shorter time frame, the one with less data. I want to show you this one. Here's the reason why. The previous history, while it could be important, this thing is still not moving on its own. That's the main thing here. So a chart will be of limited use if it's not on its own. Bitcoin is the leader, and this thing is acting relatively weak. Why hasn't this thing broken out? Okay, this thing established a resistance recently, right? You don't even have to go back a few years. You just go back to, a couple of weeks ago, 18 cents, or 18 and a quarter basically up here. Bitcoin pushed to 24,000. Why did this thing spend the next couple of weeks struggling? So this thing's no good. All right, it's relatively weak. That's what I say about most of these altcoins are in the same position. Bitcoin pulls back a bit. Now you see this pullback, right? If Bitcoin rallies from here, I mean, theoretically this thing should rally, but it's acting relatively weak. So that means that if Bitcoin goes forward and pushes forward, this thing's going to struggle. If Bitcoin pulls back, this thing probably won't have any problem breaking this support. So is it really a good coin to be in? Based on what I'm seeing here, no. Okay, Bittrex. All right, let's take a look. Let me see. Does Bittrex even have? Let me see. Bittrex. Let me see here. Oh yeah, I see. Here's Bittrex. Let's see. All right, yeah, it's the same. Okay, so look, going back, we can go back a bit if you want to see a little bit of history there. This is even more significant because, again, this is a pretty significant high for Cardano, right? That 18-cent high, pretty significant high, that recent high. And I mean, going back, I don't see anywhere near that going back, right? Going back a year, that's the highest high that we can see. Bitcoin's at 24K, basically. It pulled back a bit. Why isn't this thing pushing higher? It's relatively weak. If your coin is relatively weak, you're working against it. It's working against you. So many of these altcoins, and I've been saying it over and over, they don't have anything to offer really. They're just a bunch of good ideas, and then people just pile into them if some news comes out. So it's very similar to playing the lottery. Charts won't really help you that much. Now you could say, oh, there's a buy signal here and there's a sell signal there and blah, blah, blah. But if Bitcoin is the leader. So if Bitcoin doesn't agree with your buy signal and Bitcoin pulls back, well, your buy signal is probably not going to go anywhere unless there's a very specific piece of news that's driving it. Okay, so that's something important to realize. This is not a leader. It's not doing its own thing. There are some altcoins that are doing their own thing. Okay, one of them is Monero, XMR, right? This thing was pretty much doing its own thing. It's pulling back now. Okay, fine. Bitcoin's pulling back a bit. But this thing was pretty much, Bitcoin was pushing that high, and this thing was pretty much ahead of it. That's something that's relatively strong. So I would expect that if Bitcoin turns around, I would see, you know, if a buy signal shows up in Monero, that makes sense to take, not Cardano. Okay, I'm comparing them in terms of relative strength. If you're in Cardano, all you can do, you have a couple of choices. Either you can hope for the best, which is usually not the best choice. On the next rally, if it can break out, you see how far it can go and reduce your exposure to it. You know, get out of whatever you can. And if it breaks the support, perhaps you do the same thing. You know, reduce exposure, or if you're willing to ride it to zero, I mean, that's the only thing that could make you a strong hand. But like I said, until they break out, until they prove themselves on a fundamental level, which most of them have not, you know, you're pretty much gambling. Someone had asked me the other day, you know, is Bitcoin safe? And I ranted on about that for about 3 hours. And I also even mentioned it in my TradingView article, because none of these things are safe. Bitcoin is not a stock. Bitcoin, there's no oversight, you know, on Bitcoin or the Bitcoin space or these altcoins. There's no regulatory oversight. There's no SEC. There's none of that, right? So these things are still highly speculative, and there's a lot of things that they can do in this market that they cannot do in the stock market or even in the Forex market. So just a few things to keep in mind. You know, if you want to take risks, cannabis stocks, at least they are, you know, there's someone overseeing them, and they have to report. Many of them are, you know, SEC regulated, and they have to report their financial statements and all that stuff. And if they're not, if they're a pink sheet, well, you know what you're getting into with those. But there are some stocks that are, you know, they have something at stake, and their CEOs are personally liable for the results that they report. So they're transparent. You could see what's going on if you really want to look. These things you have no idea. Okay, you're just hoping on their you know, on their great stories or whatever news comes out, however they can hype these things up. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, I know that was a very long rant on ADA, but I hope that gives you some idea. Okay, Steve, IONS, IONS. Now this is one that Andrew mentioned the other day or recently. Nice move. Okay, so look where this thing came from. So support, right? Look at that. Now, this trend, we can argue that the trend wasn't exactly bullish going into that, but you don't always need a bullish trend. The move from the March low to basically August, that structure was in play for a while, right? It corrected that structure going into October, and then it started to find support, which is a broad higher low support. So that is a decent opportunity. Now, you know, what do you do with this now if you're not in it? You can't do anything. These are the moves that we look for to get in before they do this vertical type of move. This right here is the herd mentality. That's the herd mentality. the process goes like this. It pops up on the day trader radars, and they all pile into it. You know, they're gurus that they follow. Oh, buy this, and they all pile in. All the Robinhood traders pile in, and you know what we do? We get out. Okay, we lock in profits, and we try to let some ride. I mean, that's usually what we do. We have 3 profit targets. I don't know the specific ones because Andrew called this one, but the point is, we want to be in before this. Now, he may have even called it over here somewhere. I don't think he got the bottom. He may have even called it on that consolidation breakout, which is still fine, right? Because you're coming out of a consolidation. Now, compare this situation, right? You're coming out of a consolidation, basically a broad high or low, potential high or low, right? That large rectangle. Imagine now, compare that to buying it on a breakout way up here, right? This type of breakout way up here is the type I don't like. This type over here makes more sense because you're coming off of a higher low. So theoretically, it has room to run. It should go for that higher high, and you got plenty of potential there, even to test that previous high. Okay, so definitely nice to see. Hopefully you've locked in some profit. Oh, market buy at 53.09. Okay, 53.09. So you're at 55.14 right now. In this situation, good, I'm glad you mentioned that because again, it's hard for me to follow everything that he calls. You know, I'm calling my own trades and doing my own thing and watching my own markets. Now, in this situation, when it goes vertical like that, right, it's a good idea to lock something in. So you don't have to lock in 90% of your position, but it's a good idea to capitalize on this momentum. There is no sell signal in this at the moment. So what do? Maybe you take off, if you have 100 shares, take off 25 shares. What's wrong with locking some profit in? If it goes higher, you're still in it. You can't get upset if, you know, oh, I sold 25 shares and I could have made all that extra money if it runs another couple of dollars. You can't do that because you know how many times it turns into a pin bar and you had that opportunity to get out of some and you said, oh no, I'm going to hold the whole thing, and then you give it all back, right? So in order to take that emotion out, it's always wise to lock something in. Now, as far as where it goes from here, let's look at some levels. Okay, and talk about what you can do to manage the trade. So you have this level up here. There's a resistance right there. You have a resistance over here. Okay, so those are potential turning points or where you may see some selling activity. Actually, you have a resistance back here too. That goes back to like October. So you're kind of near one, right? So again, it makes a lot of sense to take something off the table now. So the way you can do this is for the rest of your position, it would be wise to probably set a predetermined target higher, like between these resistance levels, you know, in the 58 area, right? Not a bad place to set, you know, a target to get out of some more. If you don't want to do that, use a predetermined target, then you could use a trailing stop, which you have to do manually. All right, the trailing stop, now let me tell you, the trailing stop works great when you have a really, really broad move that never turns back, that never looks back. But if it gets noisy, and your stop is like basically 2 bars behind, okay, two candles behind in this case, that means your stop would be right now at $49, okay, which is way below where even you got in. And as it progresses, you keep raising that stop to 2 bars behind. When you get tapped out, you're going to give a pretty large portion of your profit back. A lot of times, the advantage to doing something like that, again, is if you have a very dramatic move and it just keeps going, you capture more of the move. But if it gets noisy, you're going to get tapped out most likely. Okay, so there's no perfect way to do it. There's no perfect way to maximize and get every little penny out of the move. Okay, so I hope that helps. Thanks for bringing that one up. Again, that was one that Andrew called and he sent out to our members. Okay, hey, Thela, nice to see you. So Jay, when do you buy a breakout? Okay, so QS. Let's take a look. So like I mentioned, okay, yeah, wow, look at that. That's a nice one. Should have told us about this one. Man, so this is a different type of breakout. These again, is this the type of breakout that I like to take? I hesitate with these, but I'll tell you one thing that I would give something like this a chance only because, I mean, I wouldn't buy it right now, but if I saw the breakout occurring, what I like about it is it's a higher low just below it. What price is this thing? It's about $80 was the breakout price. This thing is about $10 higher, and the low there was $57. That's a lot of risk. Okay, that's a lot of risk. There's no way I could use a stop that wide on something like this. So in this situation, this is where you have to be nimble. If you don't have experience, then forget it. These are not good ideas because this can easily fail, right? Easily fail in here. And you don't want to buying the high of the breakout is not buying the breakout. Buying the breakout is basically buying the price that it was previously, right? Not where it is now. So some people may say, what about the high of this tail right here at 87.5? No. All right, that's a long tail. You want something a little more, you want this candle there. That makes a lot more sense because those long tails, when they give it back fast like that, those levels don't really mean as much in that case. So in a situation like this, I mean, this is a risky type of breakout, not my favorite. My type of breakout that I like I explained before, I'd rather see this type of formation after like it's pulled back. Again, like that stock that we looked at just a little while ago. What was it? Ionis? Was it Ionis? No, which one was it? Or was it ADA? Yeah, it was Ionis. Right? This is the type of breakout that I like to see where it had plenty of time to pull back and it consolidated. You notice this consolidation is potentially a broad lower high, and then we broke the high of that, right? I'd rather buy the breakout of a broad lower high than one of these where it's basically, you know, you're buying the high, the breakout of the high. These do work on occasion, like I said. In fact, I remember I called Hibbett Sports, and I think Reggie too, I called that one, and they were this type of trade. So you have to be prepared for the risk if they fail, right? That's the thing. You have to be quick to get out of them if they fail. But they're not my first choice, okay? I would rather find something that looks more like Ionis, okay, in terms of breakout. So thanks for bringing that up. Okay, so next question, Michelle. VeChain, okay. So VET, USD, let's see. So this is probably, okay. Let's look at the price. How much is this thing? So it's basically $0.015, basically. So again, this goes back to the follow the leader Bitcoin situation, right? Just like ADA. First thing is, let's look at the support and resistance levels. You have a support there, you have a support here, and you have a resistance here, right? Those are the levels that are in play right now. Relative strength-wise, this thing is not performing well. Bitcoin has pushed major highs. I mean, if we go back, it looks like this thing's major highs were, looks like it started out much higher. Wow, look at that. Look at that vertical line dating back there a year. Okay, yeah, I don't know what that, maybe that's a bad tick. I don't know what that is. But in more recent time, we can say that the major high was back here. What's this price here? About 2 cents, about 0.0220, whatever that is, right? Just a little over 2 cents. And we're nowhere near there, right? That was like back in August. And we're nowhere near there while Bitcoin is pushing major highs. So that relative weakness is definitely a concern. I don't like coins that behave like that, okay? In fact, I don't like most altcoins because they don't behave right. They don't even do what stocks do. So with that relative weakness in mind, if you're in it, like I said with ADA, you only have a couple of choices. You can hope for the best and hope that maybe some news comes out someday and this thing does something spectacular like we see on occasion. Or you could perhaps wait for a better support. Right now, you're fooling around a support, but this is the middle of the range. So it could break, it may not break. Charts aren't going to be very helpful. You could wait for this support here. That's less than a penny, okay, right around there. That would probably be a more attractive area for it. But with the relative weakness, I would expect that if Bitcoin pulls back further, this is going to break supports. So, you know, if you're in it, perhaps it'd be a good place to lighten up some, reduce your risk. And if you're taking a loss, maybe it's a good idea to put that money into something that's got better structure or performing better. Okay, so again, I don't like the way these things look. And I'll tell you, I'm going to show you one. What is that? It's called Parsecu. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this one. Let me see. Look, is that the right one? I don't know if I have the right par, or is it par CQ US? Do I have that right? Par CQ USD, right? This is one of those. Why is it giving me this chart here? Where's the chart? It's not giving me the chart. That's strange. Okay. Par CQ. Hold on. I just want to show you this because par CQ on Poloniex. There it is. Okay. So, I mean, look, this is one of those situations, right? And I'm bringing this up because, you know, Cardano was mentioned in Vex chain. And this is like one of those deals. Look at this. So the thing goes crazy just very recently, right? Goes crazy and gives it all back. It's garbage. Like they have some, you know, their automation, some kind of automation platform, and they're going to have, you know, there's only 104 million coins available. It's going to be a, what do you call it? It's a, I can't think of the name right now. It's a utility token, right? Whatever to run their system. And I'm again, empty promises, nonsense. So if you get caught, if you have an opportunity, if you're in one of these and they go vertical like this, take your money and run because these are like penny stocks. Okay, so that same goes for VeChain, same goes for ADA. They're penny stocks, and we all know we're penny stocks why they're worth pennies. Okay, Jay. So BLI. So I hope that answers your question, Michelle. Hope that helps. BLI. Oh, this one. Oh, this one. Oh, yeah. This was a swing trade idea. I believe this one was tricky. This was a trade of the week. This one was tricky because I think it stopped out after it tapped everyone in. I think, let's see, the stop was 80.5. And let's see, yeah, this one stopped out. But I know Andrew called a position trade not too long after it stopped out. And wow, what a move, right? So again, let's just analyze what it looked like before the move. That's what it looked like. See that? It was fooling around. This is a double bottom situation, okay? Higher, low. It's a broad, higher, low, double bottom situation. And yet, Jay, as far as like the type of breakout that I like, this would fit. This would fit the criteria because look at that. You have this consolidation area, breakout, and it's got some room to run, okay? This is not the high, right? This breakout over here, what's this high over here? 84.5 or 84.75. That's not the high. And it's got room to run to the high, and it ran there, right? So those are the breakouts I prefer, not these type of breakouts, which you could see they can fake out very easily. All right, anyway, wow, yeah, thanks for bringing that one up. Yeah, we called that one a while back, probably like a month ago. Okay, so thanks for bringing that one up. Steve, okay, but what is a buy stop? Okay, Steve, no, look, there's no such thing as a dumb question. I get that question sometimes. A buy stop is basically the same as a stop loss order, but instead of using it to get out, you're using it to get in, right? So usually when people place a buy order, a lot of times if they don't have a lot of experience, they use a limit order or they use a market order. They just buy, right? You just press the buy button. That's a market order. A buy stop is an order that you can place in advance that will activate a market order once the price is touched. Okay, so a stop order in itself guarantees that you will get a fill, but it does not guarantee the best price. You're going to pay the spread. If there's slippage, you're going to get caught in that too. But we use buy stops most of the time. We don't use limits very often. So we want the market to work to get into that position. That's why if you look at our trades, right, this is what our trades look like. It looks exactly like this. Buy stop, stop loss, right? Targets 1 to 3 and the reward risk. Buy stop means the order has the market, the price needs to touch that 83.80 and the trade is active. So you have the opportunity to place that order in advance, okay? And then it's up to the market to tap that order and tap you into the trade rather than reacting, all right? So yeah, if you use some market orders, I mean, limit orders are sort of the same, but the thing is a limit order, the limit order, it could be skipped over, right? Where a market order guarantees a fill, where a limit order doesn't guarantee a fill, it guarantees your price. So in these cases, we want to get filled, right? We want to make sure we're in the market. So we use a market buy stop, which turns into a market order. All right, so no problem. Okay, ADA, got that. PLL. Yeah, thanks for bringing PLL up. This is Piedmont Lithium. This is another trade idea. This was a trade of the week that I sent out much more recently. And now look at this. So this one was tricky. Let me explain this one. So this is obviously an electric vehicle play because they produce the whatever chemicals it is to make the lithium work and the batteries, whatever. I don't know all the details on that. But when I sent this out, okay, it was on, I'm going to show you the candle. It was sent out, I believe, on this candle here, okay? So that's like almost a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. The high of that candle is 24.65. We had a couple of people who got filled in that at 24.85. If you notice, the order was 28.80 was the buy stop, okay? As you can see, the high here was 28.65. People got filled, and I'm like, how did people get filled if the buy stop was at 28.80, but the high of the day was 28.65? Well, they placed the orders pre-market. This chart doesn't show pre-market pre-market activity. So placing orders pre-market is usually a bad idea unless you really want to be in it. The thing is, you're better off waiting till the market opens, even if you don't get the best price, because in this situation, when you place an order pre-market, market makers can easily see your orders, and if they could take advantage of it, they will, right? They can easily push prices a little bit to have their, to take the other side of those trades and this and that, and that's what appeared to have occurred there. So now, were they stopped out? I know one person took the stop out because he had a tighter stop, but the stop here was 23.80. Okay, the low here is 24.35. Okay, the low over here is 24.39. Never stopped out. So that's why another thing: never adjust the stops. If you want to take less risk, adjust your size. So you're like, well, because he said he couldn't afford the 1% risk on such a trade. So okay, no problem. Take a smaller position. Don't move the stop because the stop is based on structure. Okay. Oh, is it? Okay. Right. No problem. I think was it you, Sean? I think it was. I know there were a couple of people that got caught in that. But my point is, don't move the stop. Change your size. So yeah, if you make money, it's going to be less money, but your risk will also be smaller. Remember, it's about the risk. Because over time, and Alice, one of our longest members, Alice mentioned that when he started out with us, he was taking smaller risks, right, using smaller amounts of money. And now today, he's using like double what he was using back then. For one, because he's confident, he knows what he's doing. And he started out with his small account, and he kept his risk very small. It's not about the money that you make. It's about keeping the risk controlled. And over time, right, you will see that positive return if you're good at managing risk. That's really the whole thing. People want to make $1,000 overnight on a $100 account. That's what everyone wants to do. If you go to a day trader website, that's the promise that they make you. They say, they show a chart. Oh, I made $5,000 today on my $1,000 account. Okay, that's nice. But they're selling a dream that's very unrealistic in terms of risk. You cannot make that. I mean, can you make that kind of money? Sure. But the kind of risk that you have to take will not allow you to do that over time, which is the part that they don't tell you. Anyway, so PLL, this thing is doing okay now. I mean, has it reached its first target yet? 33.80? No. What's today's high? 28.01. Okay, still got some room to go. But again, this is an electric vehicle play. If it pops out of this consolidation, which is great, if it pops out of here, again, Jay, another example of the type of breakout that I prefer, because look at this, right? Is this high, is this consolidation high, I should have brought this one up, of $30, is that anywhere near the high of the stock? Not even close, right? The high of the stock is at like 40, almost $50. So is this bullish breakout a high probability breakout or a low probability? I would say high probability because you have it's a nice broad high or low situation, and it's nowhere near the high, which means you have all this potential. You have all this potential for it to, go somewhere, as opposed to go to a failed high. Now, sure, it can fail here too. It failed back here. It can fail, but the thing is, it has more potential. Okay, and that's why that's more of my type of breakout. Not buying the high where everyone buys. Okay, So just something to keep in mind. We want to take advantage of those people that buy those all-time highs. We want to be able to distribute our risk onto them, right? That's what smart money does. That's the way the game works. All right, cool. Okay, no problem, Sean. Okay, cool. So yeah, see, thanks for being honest, Sean. Yeah, so Sean was the one that mentioned that stuff with that PLL, but that's how you learn. You know, you learn these things over time, and like I was saying, Alice. Now he's making his own trades on his own, doing stuff. He sent us a few charts, and it's like, wow, he learned all that stuff from us, right? He's been with us for 2 years. He's been very active, asked lots and lots of questions, and now here he is. You know, he's doing pretty well. But he was all about looking for that consistency. He didn't care that he was making small amounts of money on his small account. When he started, he was more concerned about, hey, I don't want to throw money out the window. I want to learn how to do this, and it's going to take some time, right? And that's the mindset that you have to have. Many people, like I said, they come into this and they want to make a lot of money very quickly. And there are many websites and there are many YouTube videos out there that make that promise, and they show examples. Hey, let me show you my trades today. Oh, I made $10,000 here. I made $5,000 there. Oh, I had a bad day. I only made $1,000 on this one. And you're like, wow, I want to be able to do that, right? So there's a lot of gimmicks there and stuff like that. We're very pragmatic and realistic about the way we do it. And the other idea is you don't have to be stuck on your computer all day or worried about every little tick or having positions that are too big where, you know, you get stuck in hope mode and you can get into some serious problems, you know, when you're stuck in those situations. That could be an experience that some people have had. I know I've went through stuff like that, but that's part of the learning curve. We're trying to help people avoid getting into those situations and learn all the valuable lessons so that, you know, if you're going to make that type of mistake, it's with small money, okay? But those type of things, they happen sometimes. Anyway, all right, so I'm pretty much on schedule today. Do I have any other questions? Any other questions? I think we covered some good things here. I got everyone's questions. We covered some altcoins, got into some stocks. Oh yeah, so I'm going to give you a little preview. This is what I'm thinking for tomorrow possibly as a trade of the week. All right, I don't have any orders on this yet, but again, look at the situation. Does this not look similar to like the PLL and some of those other stocks we looked at? This is Bed Bath & Beyond. All right. I like the higher low situation. I like the breakout potential. Now keep in mind, this is not a fast mover, right? It took 2 months for this thing to move $8. 2 months. That sucks. I mean, it's slow. All right. It's very slow. But hey, you know, if this thing wants to move, if I have to risk $1.50 to make $3 and it takes a month, who cares? Right? That's still good reward risk, and it's not like I'm, you know, I depend on this thing. It's like, hey, some extra money, and it's not a lot of risk. Plus, it's a great valuable learning lesson. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking about. We'll see if what we have tomorrow as far as comparisons go, maybe a better chart will come up or something that moves better. So tomorrow is the Talking Market Show with Mark and Andrew at 4 p.m. Now, Andrew, he's on the road, so I don't know if he's going to be on the show tomorrow, so it may just be me and Henry. But still, stop by, say hello. You know, we always like to support, and I always try to make the show as interesting as possible. Henry's really good with the fundamental side of things, so you pick up a lot of fundamental things. Are fundamentals bad? No. I mean, I talk about them a lot, saying, oh, you don't need them. But again, I'm very short-term oriented. And I'm only interested in what takes place over the next few days, next few weeks. I don't care about in a year. That's a different type of strategy. But speaking of that, I just want to mention the pot stocks, right? CGC, Canopy Growth. Look at this. This is the best in breed. In recent time, it's got a bullish structure and it's trying to find a higher low. Okay, that's good. The next resistance here is what, $29, $30. If it can clear that, we're looking at the higher high back into the 30s. Can it do it? Well, fundamentally, you know, laws are now changing where that support these things, where before we didn't have that, right? So that's where we can get into things like that on the Talking Market Show, and Henry's pretty good with that stuff as well. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that. That's at 4 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. If you're a subscriber to the YouTube channel here, you'll get an email notification from YouTube. All right, you guys, so do I have any more questions before I can, because you don't want me to continue to ramble. I'll ramble for 3 hours, okay, like Michael pointed out. I like to repeat things a lot too, right? Michael said that I can talk about the weather for an hour. So yeah, he's right. So you have to stop me. Um, so do I have any other questions? Also, if you're new to Greenbridge Investing, please make sure you subscribe to the channel here. Please press the like button if you like the video, so I can feel better about these. Otherwise I get depressed. No, I'm just kidding. It just feels good to see that people like the video. Also, make sure you check out greenbridgeinvesting.com. We have a swing trade service by text, by email, portfolio management ideas by email, and we have a chat room. As many of you are in the chat room, you know what goes on in there. Go back to the beginning of the video. I had the pricing. I explained that real quick. And also on the bottom of this channel here, the show more thing, you can see the links that go to different places, and it'll take you to our website and all that stuff. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that. All right, you guys, so if I don't have any more questions, I'm going to wrap this up. I want to thank you again all for listening and participating. I always love to see the participation and the great questions people ask, because that's how we all learn. People have different things that they're looking at, and we can get perspective from it. Again, keep in mind, I want to leave you with this today. It's a holiday week. So as the week continues to go, unfold, I would be expecting less volume. I'd expecting more muted movement, a lot more consolidation type of intraday price action. That's what I'd be expecting. Now, there's always exceptions, and you should not go into any day with a bias, and you should never have like, okay, it's going to do this, I'm sure of it, I'm going to do that. Always have an open mind, okay? Anything can happen. That's the mentality you have to have. Some little piece of news can come out of nowhere, like we saw today. No one expected the market to start off, as negative as it had started based on that stimulus package news. It came out of nowhere. Charts didn't tell us. It just came out of nowhere. So again, keep in mind that you have to be prepared for stuff like that. The probability of the location helps you gauge, how you should be behaving. Are we in a location where we should be buying? And actually, as I say this, I should have the NASDAQ up. Okay, so you could think about it. Are we in a location where you should be buying, or are you in a location where you should probably be taking profits? Okay, so you should be able to answer that question. I shouldn't have to answer that for you, right? Think about that as the week unfolds. Now, I want to see support levels. I don't know if we're going to see any this week. Again, next week we have another holiday week. So I would expect the beginning of the week to be heavier in volume. As we get closer to the holiday, the volume will lighten up. So low volume means easier manipulation, more muted moves, or like I said, if a piece of news comes out, you can get a dramatic move out of nowhere on low volume. It can happen. Okay. Keep in mind, we have an unstable political situation in this country. And just like that stimulus piece of news, something else can come out of nowhere from that unstable situation. And next thing you know, oh, why is the S&P minus 500 points today? Why is the NASDAQ minus 500 points? I don't understand. So just something to keep in mind. The news will not help you with that. All right. Anyway, enough of my ramble. That's it. I have to stop now. I'm closing my mouth. Okay. Well, Stephen, yeah, you know what? If you're not sure how to place the order on your platform, you can either call the exchange or the broker you're using and ask them to explain it to you, because that's their job. Or somewhere, I'm sure on their website, it should explain on their platform, because not all platforms can place the orders the same, especially when it comes to stuff like Bitcoin. Some platforms are not as, they don't let you place a buy stop, some of them, okay, from what I understand. So you have to look into that. Yeah, look into that platform specifically and see. But you should be able to sell, just like if your platform lets you put a stop loss order out there, which is a sell stop if you're long, you should be able to put a buy stop to protect yourself if you're short, right? It would be a buy stop if you're short, because you have to buy it back. Instead of using it to protect yourself from a short, you would be using it to get into a position. Okay? So anyway, yeah, so let us know in the chat room how that goes. But your broker or exchange should be able to help you with that specifically. All right, so again, thanks for all your questions, everyone. I'm going to let you go with that. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the chat room tomorrow. Thank you all for watching.